Hey y'all, so this is an incredibly dark topic, but I really think it's one that's growing in importance. Childhood obesity. So there's a story that just come out about a boy, a 7-year-old boy, who passed weighing 255 pounds, was 50 inches tall, I think, 4'3". And I'm not gonna show an image of this boy. Feel terrible looking at it myself, and I just don't want to. But so the parents are being charged with second degree murder. Now, there was more to it than just his weight, of course, in this situation. His dad, 40, and his mom, 41, were both being charged with second degree murder following the passing of the boy, who was 50.5 inches tall and weighed 255 pounds. Also, to add on top of this, apparently he has a sister too, and there's no record of the kids with the government, I don't think, at all. So they weren't enrolled in school. The boy had only been to the doctor once in his entire life that they could find. And the dad had a good job with insurance, and they just neglected to take their kids to the doctor. They were living in a hoarding situation where apparently the house was pretty disgusting. And just on top of that, the day that he passed away, they called the veterinarian to make an appointment for their dog. They care more about the health of their dog than they did their own kids. Crazy to me. Now, while there is obviously quite a bit of compounding stuff, it seems, to them being charged for his passing, I feel like it does bring up a somewhat important conversation to have, because we're having more and more kids in our society now are obese or morbidly obese. And I did want to say the cause of death for this child was dilated cardiomyopathy, which causes heart failure, contributing cause being morbid obesity. A healthy weight for his age would have been 50 to 73 pounds, and he was 255. For his age and his height. I'm sorry, for his age and his height. So I know there were more contributing factors than just that, but with there being more and more children that are in this situation nowadays, like even if they're living in a decent home, even if their parents seek medical attention for them, is there going to come a time where if these children pass, that parents are going to start being held responsible for that? Because, if kids were starving, then parents would be charged with neglect, right? So wouldn't it also be the opposite? Because both can cause you to lose your child, right? And both, I don't know, it feels like both are neglect. Maybe you disagree with that, but both take watching your child's body change and their health deteriorate while you do nothing about that, or you help it along. And I'm not saying that parents who literally are doing everything they can to feed their kids and they still can't feed their kids, I'm not talking about that. We all know that there are parents, sadly, that do not do everything possible to feed their kids, and some parents even withhold food from their kids as punishment, or just because they're terrible people. Just because they're terrible people. I think that we have, when it comes to the opposite side of things, I think that we have this weird thing in our heads where we think that they're maybe overfeeding their kids out of love, but it doesn't seem like this kid was loved correctly or the right way or whatever. I have taken my daughter to the doctor for nothing, just because I wanted to be safe. I wanted to make sure, and that more than once. More than once. I've gotten her an X-ray for nothing because I wanted to be extra safe that something was that she didn't swallow something. Even though there was no real evidence that she had done so, I wanted to be extra safe. So I got up at 2 o'clock in the morning in a strange town that I had never drove in. Because I didn't drive us there. My mom did. My mom actually used to live there, but I had no idea where I was going. Had to Google Maps a hospital, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Didn't even have shoes on the baby. Just was carried her most of the way, and then had to make her walk a short way where it was safe for her feet. Went in the middle of the night and was talked to like I was a fucking idiot for doing so. Um, by the person that triaged us. I can't say that word right, but the X-ray showed nothing, and we made our way back on Google Maps, and again took the walk of the shame back to the hotel room because there was nothing going on. But my point is, I have taken her and done a whole lot for much less because I was concerned for her health. And so I guess it's just hard to. This was definitely neglect. And I feel like if you're watching your child get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're not concerned enough to, I want to use the word intervene, but like you as the parent, you are the one causing it because you give them the food. You buy the food. You decide what they get to put in their bodies. You're not a bystander to what's happening. You are the cause of it. And I think that a lot of people have this idea in their heads that, you give people, if someone you love is obese or morbidly obese and you're providing that food, you're doing that out of love. Yeah, maybe in some weird way that is what's happening, but you're also don't love them enough to not do that. And I kind of hate to say that. But it's the hard thing. The hard thing is to say, no, you need to find a path towards being healthy. I would be neglecting your health. I would be neglecting you in that way if I continued to do this. And so I won't. Like when it's, for some reason, when it's like actual drugs, and I say actual drugs because a lot of the food we have available now kind of is that. Yeah, I mean, when you eat it, endorphins, the sugar, the salt, it kind of is a little bit drugs. Sorry, kind of is. Kind of act that way. So, and this is coming from someone who's definitely had their fair share of issues with food. I somewhat was a kid that should have, not even somewhat, I was a kid that should have been cut off. Okay. Luckily, I did not get even close to the extent of this child or some of the children out there today, but I should have been cut off. And I'm not saying that my mom or my granny neglected me because it didn't get far enough to impact my health. And on top of that, honestly, there weren't a lot of overweight kids back then. I don't think that there was as much information about it then. I'm sure they knew. They knew I was overeating. They knew I was eating things that weren't necessarily healthy. But it was just if you were back then, if you were, then you kind of understand it was the beginning. That's a good way to put it. It was the beginning of what we're seeing now. It started happening with my generation. It was just on a lot lesser of a level than where it is now. So I was like a test subject in the beginning, so to speak. And that's not to say they didn't try to do some lifestyle changes here and there. They did, but I think they struggled with wanting to eat the bad things themselves, and that made it harder. which as a parent now, I do totally understand, but that's why the 80-20-90-10 is so important, because I do that and I do that with my daughter, because it was not that is not how I grew up, and if it had been, I think it would have made a difference, and we all know that now. That information is just at the end of your fingertips now, and I also thought of, sorry, this seems like I'm like, blah, 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 blah. I didn't script this. You know me, I don't script shit. That I just got reminded. I was scrolling through TikTok the other day, and this woman popped on there, and she's like, "Oh, you feed your kid all the healthy stuff. You don't give them this, you don't give them that, and they're eating organic, and they're eating whole foods." And she's like, "Good for you. You do whatever works," and blah blah blah. Which that's that's whatever. Like I said, I don't feed my kid 100% whole foods. Like she gets a little dabble here and there. She gets to experience the same things the other kids are eating. She just doesn't get to eat herself into obesity, because I get to dictate whether or not she eats herself into obesity. And as a parent, I think that's part of it. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. But I think part of being a parent is not to hand your kids drugs and let them do whatever they want with them. Sorry. And I'm not strict. I'm not a strict person. I just care about her quality of life. Okay? At the end of the day, I don't want her to go through the things I went through being the fat kid. I don't want her to be the adult I am today that struggles and has struggled my entire life with food addiction. I don't want that for her. And call me crazy, but I feel like I signed up for giving a fuck about that the day I got pregnant, or knew I was pregnant, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So there's this woman being like, "Don't you dictate what my baby eats, and I won't dictate what your baby eats." Basically, what she's saying. And then I scroll, and there is this obese woman holding the biggest 1-year-old I have ever seen in my life. Maybe the biggest on the planet. I don't know. Huge. And I don't mean any disrespect towards the 1-year-old. Definitely not in any way, shape, or form the 1-year-old's fault. Period. I think we all know that. I think we all know the 1-year-old did not eat themselves into obesity out of choice. A 1-year-old doesn't have a choice of what they eat. Okay? To a degree, yeah. If they don't like broccoli and they're not going to chew it up and swallow it, sure. In that sense, yes. But at 1-year-old, my daughter didn't even have processed food, unless you count like the little things of Gerber that's like just ground up broccoli, and that stuff. That was that, and like the little baby snacks they had. That is the most processed food she had ever had. And a lot of the times I just ground up vegetables for her at home. I did let her eat those too, but as much as I could, I just, made the fruits or vegetables at home where she could eat them. Which obviously isn't viable all the time and isn't viable for everyone. Buy the little Gerber things, Keep up with if there's any recalls, of course. But, like, I didn't let her start dabbling in, like, the processed foods that we have in our 10-20% of, well, me, not my husband, bless his heart, that I have in the other 10-20% of my diet. I didn't let her dabble in those until she was over 1-year-old, because I wanted a good baseline for, this is whole foods. This is real foods. Experience this first, okay? And then maybe we dabble a little bit in other things. Then maybe we have a little treat, because that's what it should be, is a treat, not your whole diet. Anyways, she's also given this 1-year-old infant servings of food that are sometimes bigger than what I eat. The problem is you do not give a fuck about what your infant is supposed to be eating to have a healthy diet. You could care less. As a matter of fact, you're putting your infant daughter on the internet, obese, naked, in just a diaper, out there for the world to see and do what they want with that image. You're disgusting in so many different ways. I hate to judge another mother. I cannot tell you how much it bothers me. I'm about to tear up because I don't want to judge this woman. But at the same time, I hate how little you care for your own child. I hate it. Number one, take her off the internet. You already have so many images of her that you can't scrub, that people can do whatever they want with, and don't act like you don't know what that is. Okay? Number two, care about whether she lives and her quality of life. For you to post her the way you do with no clothes on and feeding her and showing how big she is and how much she eats. That takes two different kind of content and puts it together, and you're using your child to do that to make money on the internet. Maybe I had too much coffee, but I cannot tell you how angry. I'm so mad that you care that little for your child. You okay, let's calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Calm down. I hope that your child somehow, some way, and I hope it's under the supervision of you. I hope that you decide to care for her. And I hope that she gets healthy, okay? I hope that so much. And I hope that for her sake, because she loves you, and she probably always will love you, that you become a better person and the parent that she needs. And I hope that you are able to forgive yourself, and hope that she is able to forgive you, and you are both able to find happiness and live a good life. And that is what I genuinely, truly do hope. But I can tell you that I had to cut some things out because that is not where I started. But I realized I was just angry. Back to the subject at hand, and that kind of leans into it. Is it neglect? So the more that obese children pass away from complications of their obesity, are parents going to start getting charged for playing a part in that? I'm very interested to know, and again, there was more going on in this case than just the child being obese and neglected in that way. Is it going to set a precedent for the future of if things like this happen to children? And I say if because I hope it doesn't. I hope it doesn't. But there's so many obese kids out there now, and we know that it causes them health issues even when they're little. We already know that. So we know that there is a probability that a good probability that this will not be the last case like this. And so you can tell this is an incredibly heated topic for me. One, it's because, I'm sure because I was an overweight kid. To some degree, I am mad about that. Sorry, I had to go away, so I'm not quite sure where I was. Here's the thing. If you just totally disagree that overfeeding your child into even possible health issues, not even if it was for sure health issues, but even possible health issues is not a form of neglect, then please explain to me how it's not. Because we tend to think of neglect as like not doing something, but you're literally not helping them maintain a healthy diet and a healthy weight. You're neglecting to put in the effort to buy and feed them foods that give them the amount of nutrients they need and less of the calories that they don't need. Because there are guidelines to how many calories a child is supposed to have a day. There's guidelines to how much protein and fiber and calcium that they should have. Like there are guidelines to keeping them healthy, and if you are neglecting to do that, is that not neglect? Like, I don't understand how it couldn't be. Especially now. Especially now when we know so much and what we don't know, we can so easily find out. When it comes to adults, you all can do what you want to do with your body. You have complete freedom to do so. I don't think that we have the same right with kids, and I don't think that, at least in my lifetime, we ever have. There have always been rules about what you can and cannot do with your own kids. Of course, there's limitations to that. You can teach them whatever religion you want, at least here in the US. You can teach them how to do that math problem however you want to do. You can take them to the park whenever you want. You cannot take them to the park. Like, there's lots of choices you can make for your children. You can make medical choices for your children. But even, like, I think there is a limit to those choices, to which if you are causing the child harm, you're held liable for that choice. Okay? So, again, adults can do whatever they want. They can have whatever delusions they want. Not my problem. Does it bother me? Yeah, it does. I don't like when adults are delusional. And that's not just people who say, I can be 500 pounds and healthy. That is also heavily religious people that take it to an extreme and they act like idiots. I do not like delusional adults, unless it's something that just needs to be medicated and it's something that you just totally have zero control over, like it's an actual mental illness. That's not, you can't control that. That's different. But, like, to be able to have all the building blocks to be a rational adult and to just be like, nah, I'd rather live in delusion. Like, go fuck yourself. Okay. It bothers me. But at the end of the day, you can do whatever you want. But when it comes to your kid, if somebody who believes that boy was healthy at 255 pounds wants to come in my comments and try to tell me some shit like that, you really need to go figure yourself the fuck out, because there's something wrong with you. Big time. And I'm not talking about your weight. I'm talking about up here. Okay? Your weight's a whole separate issue. This. And I'm not saying this as a skinny mini. Honey, I'm overweight. I'm even stage 1 obese right now. I've struggled with my weight, and that's why I'm so passionate about this. I'm pretty sure that's why, anyway. I have struggled with my weight personally and with food personally my entire life. Luckily, my daughter has not been overweight. I've done good with her, and that's another reason I think I'm so passionate about this, is because even if you struggle yourself, you can care enough about children to not give them that struggle, or to do everything you can not to anyways. Part of it will probably be genetic. My girl likes to eat. She didn't get that from daddy, okay? So, part of it will be genetic, but I'm trying to give her all the building blocks I can for it not to be an issue like it is for me. I'm going to end this here. I know you're tired of hearing me talk, okay? If you like this video, please give it a like. If you don't like this video, that's okay. If you'd like to subscribe, that'd be rad. If you don't want to, I'll try again next time. Have a good day. Bye-bye.